a little bit until we put the pads on Saturday, and then we'll find out what type of ball club we have. So with that, open up to you guys.
Todd, can you walk us through the process of when USC reached out to you and how that all came together?
Yeah, it was unique because the timing was, I wanted to work, to be honest with you. So my old boss at Utah State, Matt Wells, opportunity to kind of stay in that league too, opportunity to compete against Texas again, which I thought was unique, and wanted to do that. Coach Helton was, the timing of him with a special teams coordinator, a defensive coordinator, and then when he reached out, it was a no-brainer, so it's right along that point where it was have an opportunity to come here. And the thing that was, to me, is so impressive about Coach himself was just the human being that he is, just a unique man. When I got a chance to come up here and spend the weekend, my wife and I came up here and just sat down and the thing about it was the football part of it, because I was here competing, and I think it was 2012 when I was at Utah State. So we had already played USC, and then 17 and 18 played them when I was at Texas. So I really believe it was simply like, am I a jerk or am I a good person? And it was one of those things. Talked a little bit about football, but just more philosophy. And I knew right off the bat when we sat down and we talked that we believed in the same things, and kind of hit it off that way. So right around that timetable.
So did you have a relationship with Clay at all before?
A little bit, just here and there. The one thing I always respected about Coach was, I think initially when I was at Utah State, I think they were impressed with the things that we did. And then in 2017, when I was here, when we were at Texas, literally after the game was over, it was a hell of a game, and he came up to me personally, and I was really, really impressed. He pulled me aside. I was disappointed walking off the field, and he grabbed me up and just said, keep going. And from there was kind of one of those relationships where I think we both respected the heck out of each other, but personally, it wasn't like we were calling each other and doing that stuff. But in this profession, I think your kind of resume is, how your kids play. So and we kind of hit it off from that standpoint.
What were some of the reasons Clay said that he sought you out?
Well, we're multiple. I think we're, if you asked him going from kind of an offensive line pedigree to, just the overall, from offensive coordinator standpoint, I think we gave people fits because of all the stuff that we did. So I think can be extremely hard to prepare for, when you only have a 3-day block. So I think he was probably fascinated by that and how it all worked. And I think when we sat down and kind of he got a overall feel of me as a person and like what I was about, and I think he connected those dots and said, this isn't one of these things where it's just a schematical deal. There's a lot of intensity to our fundamentals, techniques, kind of the toughness part of it, and kind of grouping that together. I think that's what he probably liked the most. So that was one of the things where initially, if you don't know somebody extremely well, that's when you bring them up. And we've had conversations on the phone before that point, but to look somebody eye to eye and get a chance to know them a little bit better. And then, from my standpoint too, it was to know a little bit more about him and what he believed in. And it didn't take long. It probably was probably 5 or 6 hours into us just kicking things around, non-football related and football related at some points, because he wanted to know how this thing was going to be installed, kind of the timetable of how much we needed, because we're obviously at that point, we got to go. This is going to be from a standpoint. What I really liked about this place too was just the people. I just felt at home here, and even it was coming in there and with Graham and you name it, some of the offensive guys that were in there, and just like Woody himself, all these people were just, you can tell if people were phonies or they're just trying to recruit you and do this, and then you can just sense people were genuine. And when you get in situations, especially when you're dealing with elite athletes, but having a building with elite people, they're special jobs. And I always look at it this way: if you put yourself in position to go to a place to win championships, and it can be done here, and then sustain it through recruiting. And that's always, and then obviously it's your boss. So I always look at it and say, hey, listen, would you love working for your boss? Can you win championships? And then can you sustain it through recruiting? And there's only a handful of jobs in the country that you can say that to, and this is one of them.
Was there any?
You mentioned the word that has been kind of an issue, toughness. And in talking to some of the people around USC, you ask them, well, how does that happen? How do you get that kind of toughness? This is a team that maybe hasn't practiced that way. And the answer I got was, Todd Orlando won't let them not be tough. What does that mean?
Well, I think if you want to be a good fighter, you got to get in fights. You know what I'm saying? So you got to practice that way. So that's going to start on Saturday. I think we have 24 periods of practice, and 9 of them are going to be live. So it's a start. It's right under the marker in terms of the amount that the NCAA requires. But yeah, in any sport, especially one with the physicality here, there's an athletic component to this. Okay, so you get guys, you recruit them, they're fast, they're pretty, and they do all that stuff. And there's a schematical opponent to it, and then there's a physical opponent to it, which can cause the pretty athlete to not look so pretty if he gets hit. So not only are we trying to learn how to be physical and do those things, which you have to do, but just like a fighter, you got to be able to take punches too. Because if you're not accustomed to taking punches or being in physical battles, it can really change your athletic ability and really get into your head. So we've been doing that. We can't do the physical part, but we've been trying to strain these guys mentally, because there's a big difference between wins 10, 11, then you start talking about 13, 14. I mean, there's some dark valleys in that thing, and you got to go in there and see what it's all about. If you're never in there in those places that are really, really tough, then you're never going to know how to go through them. So we're going to go through that, and we're going to do that, and that's not lip service. That's not. I think that's the one thing that. And you talk about injuries and talk about all that stuff, but you have to train that way. That's part of a toll. You'd rather find out on Saturday and find out versus Alabama. You know what I'm saying? So it's we're going to practice physical. I can promise you that.
Can you walk us through your scheme and kind of how you run your defense?
Yeah, so it's multiple. So we'll go 3 down, 4 down, and we'll do a little bit. It's been this way for about 8 or 9 years. So right now, from our kids' standpoint, they've been accustomed to a more of a 4 down structure. So we're going to do both. So we've installed the 4 down stuff, and we installed the 3 down stuff, and then we're trying to be smart about how much we give these guys in the first initial days, because they've got to practice on Tuesday that's non-padded, which is like, to me, the second one is a non-padded, which to me is the same thing, and then we find out what we can do on Saturday. That's when we actually play American football. So what we're trying to do is just try to be smart with these guys, because remember, we didn't get the completion of the staff. I came here 5 weeks ago or whatever it is, but the completion of the staff it took a while. So we're in there trying. Myself and Craig were the earliest guys here, so we're trying to. He takes the back end, I take the front end. We're just trying to be smart. Then they go on break, so we're trying not to mix and match too early. Let them go on break, process it again, then come back and give them another front, and then just keep building it from there. But we're trying to be smart, just because of just the manpower that we had in the last couple weeks. Now we're fully staffed right now, locked and loaded, ready to go, but it's going to be multiple. It always has been for the last 8 years. So you can go date this thing back to when I was at Utah State, and then work itself through Houston and Texas. Some of the things have been modified just because we had to do them, but we're going to try to stay on point. The thing that I love about this group is their experience, and that's the one thing that in the college game, if you can get some older guys that have been around the block before, well, they're great to work with, and we do have a lot of that in this on this defense, and that was one of the big things. And they act like grown dudes too. They're just not older by age. They walk around here, and they've been great. Without going on a tangent, the veterans have really accepted me from day one. I think they're excited about this whole thing.
How much 4 down did you do before? Was that more of an adjustment to the personnel you have now?
Yeah, the part about this, and it's, you know, everything is done in a manner based on personnel. And once you have some personnel, in the ideal world, you'd like to see this thing about 50-50 down the line from 4 down to 3 down. And some of the places we just had to do what we had to do. But we're gonna stay consistent to this because of some of the guys, especially the older guys that we have on the edge. That's the part that I really, really like about this. And they've just come out of that a little bit. There's some things that we have in this package that they have done in the past, which makes a little bit of a transitional period a little bit easier for those guys. So we're keeping that in the back of our mind too. But we're gonna be multiple.
You like the guys on the edge, you said, but this was a team that was really vulnerable on the edge. What do you see? You know, this was a team that clearly has good personnel. What didn't happen last year for them to be able?
Well, I'm not going to comment on that stuff. But what I'm going to say is, since I've been here for the last 5 weeks, what we're trying to do is take guys and really at the end of the day that can do A to plus work. You know, and every day that they come into a meeting, every day that they go out and compete, not only do they compete in my opinion, versus the guys that are in the organization, but by, you know, inside their own heads, they're competing to be great. So that's all we're trying to do is we're trying to get guys to give more every day. And it's a process, it really is, because I think the demands that we're gonna put on them are, but it's all achievable. You know, just the level of play and everything that we do. Coaching is included now. You come into this building, you better do A+ work every day. And if you're not doing that, then you're cheating the organization. And we just take that approach, and whether it's academics, whether it is double A in the weight room, you name it, is to compete against your best self and to take this thing to be an elite where it belongs. But it's not roll out. I think they're going to be pretty good, and they put that tape on, and then they make another judgment off of it. But I just think the stuff that we're doing, the training that we're doing right now, and it's not the exterior stuff, like the athlete running around, he's 6'5", he can do this. I'm talking about the insides. I'm talking about, you know, wiring the brain, the heart, you name it, going down that line to say you can give more. That's the expectation, and that's everybody in the building. That's not us and the kids and all that. That's the expectation that I come in and we have the best unit meeting in the country. We have the most organized walkthrough in the country. This guy's on point. He doesn't, you know, he does the things that he's preaching to us 24/7. And once we get that established, that takes a little bit of time. It does. And the really cool part about football is that really strains that. So you really find out. Like, that's why I'm excited. I'm sure there will be a little bit, it'll be a little bit different playing football on Tuesday and Thursday, but the Saturday's practice, when we're knocking the living heck out of each other, that's when we're gonna find out what we're all about. I mean, to me, it's easy to go in here and everything's, peaceful and non-chaotic. We can create chaos, and see if these guys can respond to it. And if it's not great, at the end of the day, you're getting better and you're going to that dark place where all the championships are at and all the hard wins are gonna be at, and you gotta live in there, and you're gonna get knocked around and get back up, throw yourself back in there, throw punches and be active in there. But that's training, and that's what we're gonna have to do, and that's gonna take some time, and I see that going through. Let's make strides at it during spring, which you talked about the physicality part of it. Let's get bigger, faster, and stronger during the summertime. And then let's see what type of ball club we have. And normally you know about the third week of fall camp of what you're gonna be. And then it gets incrementally better or incrementally worse, one of the two. So this is all the things that we're talking to our guys about, that it's not, and to be an elite ball club, you just don't come in and punch out and roll your helmet out there and say, be scared of us. You train in that manner. So that's what we're working on.
You guys turn things around recruiting-wise at Texas.
Yeah.
What approach do you bring here to help do the same thing here?
Well, get some elite recruiters. I think we've addressed that part of it, but it's just be us. I think there's a certain energy that you have to bring to today's kid, and and I think there's an expertise at relationships that you dig into a kid's life, whether it's a parent, you know, whoever the champion is in his life, and get to know every part of it. But knowing that kid, and it's really a lot of the times it's not even about football. You know, you're going to talk to, because a lot of these kids are 3 and done, and they want to have a plan for them. You know, the top guys, like, hey, what are you going to do with me my freshman year, sophomore year, and then how do I go on to the next level? What's the reality of it? I mean, hey, that's great. You can think that way. We want to win championships here, and we're great. But the majority of the time, it's that connection to the kid that's outside the football world. They know. These kids today are, you know, and as coaches, you do it for a reason of caring for somebody, you know, and making sure, because I mean, you're going to be responsible for them getting their degree. You're going to be responsible for the pitfalls that they have at this place, and there's that comfort level. And I think when you look at our building right now and who we've hired, they're not only great teachers and you know, and they can recruit, but they're people. You know, they're great human beings, and I think kids pick up on that. And this place sells itself, to be honest with you. But they want to make sure that if I'm going to spend a lot of time with this guy, that there's something more than football. And you either have that in your DNA as a coach and as a recruiter, or you don't. One of the two. So, and we most definitely address that, especially on our side of the football.
Todd, you've done really well. It seems like at most of your stops in the first year.
Yeah.
What's key about your system maybe that can be implemented that quickly, or players can pick up quickly? And on the flip side also, last year at Texas, what maybe changed compared to past year?
Well, to address the first part of it, I just think it is multiple and it can be installed rather quickly. The part of what you get into is when you have a little bit of inexperience, if you have some youth to it, it can be a little bit less, because it does have some multiple aspects to it. So you kind of do what you have to do with some younger guys to make sure that we can get lined up and do the things. But I think initially when you come in, I think it's hard to prepare for, especially because there's some uncertainty to it. And I've always taken the approach of year one is probably to not necessarily stay the course. There's always a little bit something, a little couple wrinkles here and there, a little bit different. And I just think it's a lot to prepare for, especially if you're a team that you play, especially early in the season. There's a lot of stuff going on, but it's the package itself. If you were to get on the computer here, it's install 1, install 2, install 3, install 4. It probably goes to about 5, and then it's over. You know, so that's what we've been trying to do right now. And then you kind of pick and choose what you want to do for that game, or pick and choose what you can get done based on your personnel. And then that's how it kind of rolls. So I think it's a lot of the places in the first year that I've showed up was change from a different coordinator. And I think a lot of the times you see some improvements just based on kind of mentality too, and the way the training is. I think you more than less than it's actually the scheme. I'll be real with you. I think we come in and it's kind of like, this is the way we're going to be fundamental. We're going to be technical. And we're going to run as hard as we can at somebody and try to blast them. And that's just try to keep it that simple to kids. And then as we go into it, it's multiple enough to be able to confuse some guys, or at the end of the day, make somebody on the offensive side of the football really have to work hard. And during the springtime, it's, you know, going against our offense is completely different than you have Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. You have 4 days to try to prepare for all this stuff. It can be hard to do on the other side of the ball.
Todd, when you have an experience like last year at Texas, what's the first thing you examine about yourself as a coach?
You know, did you stay the course? And I think that's always, did you recognize some of the stuff that was going to be an issue? And I look back at it and I always say to myself you know, did you, everything that was going through that at Texas was things that we knew were happening even before they were happening. So it was all addressed. And sometimes you get into situations where stuff just happens, where you lose some marquee guys and you have to try to, you know, mix and match as much as you can. But, you know, it's like I said beforehand, you know, if you sit there and you kind of, and you've made critical mistakes, I think that's always something, boy, they're hard to bounce back from. But at no point did I sit there. We've last year's group at Texas, in terms of the staff, was as sharp as there could be. So, I mean, all that stuff has always been talked through.
Can you speak to what you were trying to, looking forward, filling out your staff? What were the key things you wanted to each spot there?
Well, I think it was good because, you know, Coach Helton had a lot to do with this also. So it was fun to sit down with him and say, you know, Craig comes, this will be the 6th year in this package, and Craig is, you know, I think probably when he got announced here, not like a household name, but he's as good as there is in the country, I can tell you that. And then all of a sudden, you know, Dante shows up on the radar, and to me, it's like getting the first pick of the draft. Honestly, it really was the way that it's set up, just for him having the ability to recruit here and do that. And then what Vic came into play was it really wanted some presence up there. You know, we catch him really early on in his career where I mean, honestly, I think he's going to be a superstar, I really do. And, but he can recruit too. He can relate and recruit. So you're catching a guy early on in his career whose best years are probably right now to go along with recruit. And we all kind of get along too. I mean, that's probably the biggest part of it. There had to be, we're all kind of aggressive type A personalities. And I got no problem with that. I want as many people in there that are competitive, but they're all very genuine, like big-hearted guys. And that's unique when you get a room full of those people that are really good at their job, but are humble enough to be able to work with each other, but also really understand the importance of recruiting. I mean, that to me is like, if just like I've said beforehand, you take this area right now and draw a ring around an hour radius, maybe 2 hour radius, and you keep the best players and you get them to come here, you're going to be in great shape. So it's that was really, really important to us that we put that together. Top of their field, but more importantly, recruiters, and then like alpha dogs too.
Any big surprises since you've been here? Things that maybe you go, oh, I didn't see that, or that's different than I maybe expected.
No, not at all. I think there's a lot of similarities to the place that I just got back from, so that from an academic standpoint. So there's always, when you get into these places that are known for their academics, and then football, the demands of football, I think that actually has helped us, you know, coming over and understanding what a normal day is for a kid. Outside of that, nothing. I mean, it's, you know, it's, everybody has their things that they have, and to me, it's just about relationships and development. And development can be done in a room like this as easy as it could be done in a ball field over there or in the Coliseum. It's just wrapping your arms around a kid, making sure that he knows how much you care about him, not only from a football standpoint, from an everyday standpoint, and then the demands of being great. I think that's such a big thing, you know, that I've seen since I've been here, is there's always a little bit more that we can do. Everybody can do it, and you know, but these kids have been unbelievable to me. I mean, I can remember walking on that practice field over there, and I mean, I can be a knucklehead at times and just throw myself into it, but I'm gonna break this down. You know, I'm gonna run right in there, and probably most of them knew myself from recruiting, handful of them. And then some were like, who's this guy? You know, so it's like, all right, let's go in there. But they were, you know, I think when you say some of the places I've been, some of the success that I've had, I think there's a certain amount of street cred that you get. So, and I think the kids have responded to that, but I also think that there's a plan in place, and these kids are very, very smart and want to know, like, what are we doing? When are we doing it? How does it get done? Show me the videos, show me this, and we've been on point with that. I'm excited about Tuesday, I really am. You know, we're gonna make our mistakes with it, but if we can train to run as hard as we can to the ball, and then eventually when the pads get on, be as physical, we can fix everything else. Taking a bad step is gonna happen, you know, but straining for your teammates, and hitting somebody that's the stuff that goes outside of human nature. Where human nature might say, it's, you know, the ball's all the way over there and I can get my air, or, you know, do I really have to cover up my teammate? He's one-on-one in space, ready to make a tackle. Do I have to really run that hard to try to help him out? Yeah, you do. That's part of being a brotherhood, and that's part of being elite. So, you know, those are the things that we're going to be working on.
Right or wrong, there was a perception that maybe USC was cheap or not maybe willing to spend money on assistant coaches and so on. Was there any conversation you had with the athletic department that gave you confidence?
Oh, in terms of confidence off that, no. It's, to me, when Coach Helton and myself talked about the hiring process, at no point, the administration has been unbelievable. And we pinpointed a lot of these guys, Coach Helton and myself, to say, like, we need these guys to win a national championship, and there was zero hesitation. They've been unbelievable.
Good.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you, Coach.